How do you take enterprise platforms, AI, and deep learning and then turn them into solutions that impact millions of users globally? Today's guest has done exactly that, scaling high performance teams, leading product led transformations, and leveraging AI in human capital management, insurance, and e learning. If you're curious about product engineering, enterprise SaaS, or AI driven innovation, this episode is for you. Welcome back to the podcast. This session is brought to you by Google for Developers Indore, and today Jain, founder and CEO of Kofiato, I am joined by Rahul Chautel, Chief Technology Officer at Luxare by Diaspark. Rahul is a technology leader with over 18 years of experience building and scaling enterprise platforms across retail, ERP, and repair domains. He focuses on transitioning teams from delivery-focused execution to product-led thinking, leveraging AI, ML, and deep learning to create transformative solutions. Rahul is also a mentor and a community contributor, sharing practical lessons on system design, agile practices, and sustainable engineering culture. Rahul, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Rahul, your experience spans engineering, product, and people. How did you get started on this path, and what drew you towards AI-driven enterprise platforms?
I started as an engineer, by the way. To be honest, my first encounter with programming was soon after 10th standard, where I got to got the exposure to C, C++. And that's when I got really fascinated with the programming and how we can automate things and change the world. So from there, after completing the engineering, I got into the job and started working on the large scale systems. And then soon after that, I realized that it is not just coding that can take me to the higher level. And what it takes essentially is beyond coding, which is about solving problems, business problems, affecting millions of users at the given point of time. And that thing changed drastically for me. And in terms of AI, I had been just a normal user in terms of focusing more on productivity, enhancements and everything, but never really used it as a lab experiment or something like that. It happened after Cornerstone, after spending about a decade or more over there, when I started looking for a change, and I ended up with AI-based firm as a head of technology. That's where I got the real hands-on experience on AI, where we were digitizing and summarizing the InsurTech platforms. So that was my first encounter with AI.
Yeah. Okay, so you often emphasize moving teams from execution-focused delivery to product-led thinking. So what are the key challenges and how do you guide teams through this transition?
The key challenge, to summarize in a single statement, is mindset. Both are different models. The project-based thing is more about output. It is task-driven. Someone gives you tasks. The more tasks you get, you have to complete it. It is output-driven. Whereas product is more about outcome-driven. That's where we want to solve the problems. You need to build a team who looks for the problem and try to solve those problems, right? So that's the larger difference, essentially. Yeah.
Okay, so how does leadership need to adapt to this?
Again, it is mindset, I would say. It has to be a top to bottom, not just bottom to top as well. Leadership, instead of telling the team about what they should be doing and how they should be doing, leadership need to change the mindset in terms of asking the right questions and framing the problem in a clear manner so that the team is finding the solutions to them. Mm-hmm. Okay, instead of telling them this is what you should be doing, it's a responsibility of the leaders to frame the problem in such a way that the team understands it's really very well and they find some solution to make sure that there is an impact to the business. And to be honest, it's more about it's not just about giving that space, but it is more about it comes with its own set of challenges, I would say. When you give the onus to the team to find the solution, that means you have multiple brains who are trying to find solution to the problem. What it means is there will be ambiguity in the responsibility. There will be push from all the ends. that what I am saying is probably right than the other, or maybe what I am saying has more value than the other. So that comes as a default challenge as opposed to project-led teams, right? Wherein someone says that you have to do certain thing and just focus on the outcome. So here you want the brain to kind of think a lot, find a solution to the problem, and that's where ambiguity and frictions happen. That's where leader has to kind of chime in and figure out how they can take the team as one system using one operating model.
Makes 100% sense. So, you've applied AI, generative AI, and deep learning in e-learning and insurance.
Yeah.
How do you decide which AI solutions are worth building and which ones risk being over-engineered?
That question is not that easy, I would say. Not just in terms of AI, but in generally as well. My counter question to that, essentially, when I kind of get into the situation, is more about what decisions are we taking to solve what kind of problem. Are we trying to increase the productivity or increase the revenue? Are we trying to create a better experience for the user, or just we want to kind of have a fancy AI tag to your product? Okay, that's where most of the companies are kind of falling for. Having just AI as a part of their kitty in their product feature, but that will not go in a longer run, right? So we have to kind of be very careful in terms of why we want to have that capability into the system, and then make a right decision. So in past we need to find when I was building AI based solution in InsurTech, we had to be very clear about what problems we are trying to solve. And once we are clear about what problems we are trying to solve, we kind of make sure that we add those tiny nuggets of the enhancements using AI, and then keep evolving that. It comes with its own challenges in terms of cost, in terms of maintainability, in terms of the accuracy that comes as a part of the challenge of the AI systems. But that's where the game changes.
For sure. So, what's one misconception that people have about AI in enterprise platforms?
That it is going to replace humans, okay? And it's going to automate almost everything, right? So I see AI more like a complementary thing, okay? Something that boosts some or the other factor in the business or the user experience of the product. But it is not going to replace anything. If your customer, that's what I say to my customers as well. If you think that the AI capability is going to replace X number of people or something magically, that's not how it works, right? Consider that as a complementary thing, something that can enhances your capability in terms of the productivity or revenue, or maybe the user experience, but nothing more than that. So it's important that people understand that thing, and that's how it essentially works. Yeah.
So, how do you balance AI innovation with system reliability at scale?
I would say I would always go for reliability over AI. Okay, because no matter what you build, if your system is not reliable, it is useless. Okay, that's the fundamental thing. Whenever we build systems, as a CTO, it's very important for me to make sure that the systems are reliable. I tell my team that your system should fail gracefully, and that same applies to AI as well. All the systems fail, and what it means is we have to build for failure. Whenever an engineer or an architect is thinking about a design of a system, they have to think about that it is going to fail someday or the other, or maybe every day or whatever, right? So they need to think about those cases and make sure that these things are covered. So you need to have right set of fallback mechanism and right set of observability in the place. And even if your system fails in AI world, then it has to switch to the deterministic model as well. Yeah.
So, you actively mentor engineers and leaders. So, from your perspective, what makes a successful engineering leader today?
Just two things. Something that has worked for me is clarity and courage. As a leader, it is very important that you have clarity about what business is asking for, how clearly you are going to communicate it to your team to get the work done, and how clear you are what exactly and where exactly the business is essentially kind of moving towards, right? And courage is about taking keeping the team together. It's not that easy. Okay, you have जैसे कहते हैं कि पांचों उंगलियां एक बराबर नहीं होती, right? So it is not an easy task. So you need to have courage to keep the team together, to manage all the people in their own different unique ways, and most importantly to have a courage to say no. No, not just to the business, not just to the customers, but at times to say no to your people as well, to strike the right balance. And once you have everything in place, I think that works well for a leader to kind of be successful.
The courage to say no and the courage to choose right things at the right time.
Yes.
That is really important actually. A lot of people do not know how to say no.
Yep. And that's when I'm coaching people, I tell them the definition. This is what I learned from my manager about a decade ago. She had told me, dependable person is not the one who says yes to everything. Okay, if someone is saying no equally or maybe not always yes, I think you have a right dependable person in your team.
How do you help teams cultivate a sustainable engineering culture?
It's not straightforward. Essentially, it should be led from the front. Leadership plays an important role in that. What it means is you need to give a right set of environment to the team. You need to give the space wherein team can ask why behind everything what they are being asked to do. Okay, that is the essential thing. To make it in a very compact way is that's what I've learned in my leadership training, is about keeping the conformity low. What it means is they need to know why they are doing what they are being asked to do, and if they don't know, they should ask. They should have that courage to ask, and to get that courage, we need to give them that space, that comfort, right? So that becomes the part of the culture. And not just that, it's the next thing is about reducing the fear of failure. As a leader, it's important that we let them fail, but at the same time they learn that we have to fail fast, get up and try to find solution for the other thing, whatever we are trying to solve. So giving that environment to the team is very important. Having a space to ask why behind things, fail fast, and at the same time, in terms of the leadership, what I tell to my people is I am one of the easiest person to disagree with. What it means is I let them disagree with me to get all the perspectives wherein they are okay to share with me, and then it's my job to process it and then respond in a right manner. So that helps to kind of create that culture of ownership, accountability, and create the boundaries wherein we can tell each and everyone in the team that what they own and they are accountable for that particular thing.
Your employees must be working with a very light environment, like not a very pressured environment, because you're giving them enough space to be their own self, express their freedom, and then that is a much better kind of environment to work in.
Yep, and that's how I've been raised, I would say, in my employment career. I've been fortunate enough to have similar kind of managers. So it's about whatever you have got, it's your job
just giving back, just similar to what we are doing with the community.
Yes,
we are just giving back to the community what we have gotten. So you worked on enterprise platforms supporting over 1 billion annual recurring revenue ARR and 7,000 plus corporate customers and 100 million users. What lessons have you learned in designing large scale AI driven SaaS platforms?
When you are operating at such a large scale, right, every decision, even a minor decision, has a cost associated with it. That's the biggest lesson that I've learned. Even if it is positive or negative, if you make a decision, it either would have a positive impact or a negative impact. So you have to be very careful about what decisions you are making, be it adding new features or deprecating any features. Okay, that becomes really very important. So it's important that we have right set of tools and the ecosystem in place. When it comes to I would say 3 pillars. One is people. That means you need to have that capability to hire right people, retain right people, keep them happy, right? And then process. You need to have that discipline to kind of consistently operate in that same model and keep on refining that thing once you have identified or strike the right way of operating in that organization. And the technology, identifying what technology needs to be used at what place and what time, because you are at scale. You cannot keep on introducing new technologies every now and then. So you have to be very careful about that. So, I have made plenty of mistakes in my past over last decade when I was building enterprise systems. But these are the things which I was mindful about, while building things.
These are really great insights. So, what's a critical mistake? What's a critical mistake teams make when scaling platforms?
The critical mistake that they make is just go about everything. When we are scaling, it's important that we become very choosy about what we are going to add into our product. Okay, and when you are scaling fast, you just have to strike a right balance between the fundamentals or the platform on which your product is sitting, on which you are adding the feature on feature, right? So you have to strike a right balance. Once you have the product market fit, once you have crossed the journey of 0 to 10 or maybe 10 to 50 or whatever, it's important that you start investing in the platform so that your platform is getting scalable to kind of take care of the larger market. So that is the important thing which I do. Yeah.
So I'm 100% aligned with all the answers that and it feels like you're speaking my mind. I'm also thinking of the same line itself. I also advise in product growth and strategy, and I've been working on product for different companies as a consultant. And these are the exact things which I guide them on or speak and try to thrive on. So 100% aligned with you there. Let's do a rapid fire round with you.
Cool.
Let's do a quick rapid fire round with first instinct answers.
Okay.
Okay, whatever comes to your mind first, let's do that. Product led or feature led?
Product led.
AI first or data first?
Data first.
Agile or hybrid?
I would say hybrid, closer to agile. Yeah, but hybrid.
Okay. SaaS or on-premise platforms?
SaaS.
Mentoring or coding? What gives you more energy?
Mentoring.
One skill engineers underestimate today?
Communication.
Cloud or hybrid cloud?
Hybrid cloud.
Okay. Looking back at the journey and looking ahead, what motivates you to keep innovating and leading large-scale technology transformations?
I think it's a mix of the impactful features, that fascinates me, that we build, and what I'm expected to build. That impacts a large number of users globally. But I have to be mindful and, be very, grateful about the fact that you need to have right people. Okay, so I cannot deliver anything if I don't have right set of people. What it means is I need to have equal level of empathy and compassion and interest in terms of mentoring and building people with me and growing people with me, right? So these are the two things that keeps driving me. Building something is more about, it's like a work, right? If you're building something today, you get to work on something later, right? But in terms of having people who can help you build these things, that takes a priority than building something, right? So I am a people-oriented person, people-first leader. So I love, building people's career along with my growth, and that's what I've done in past. And I've connected with, so many people who have worked with me over past 2 decades, and I'm so grateful for that. And that keeps me driving, to be honest. People and what I can do with those people. That's the thing.
Rahul, thank you so much for sharing your insights. From AI and enterprise platforms to product-led leadership and training and mentoring, your work shows how technology and leadership and culture comes together to create impact at scale. To everyone watching this session, it's brought to you by Google for Developers Indore. And if you found this episode insightful, please like, share, and subscribe. Drop your questions or thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.